Oh my God, what a weekend of college football. That was nowhere near what we thought was going to actually happen. Let's go ahead and dive on into where we think the rankings are going to land after a crazy week 6 here at Rankings Right Now. Okay, we are on the Rankings Right Now homepage, www.rankingsrightnow.com. Go ahead and subscribe to our weekly analysis newsletter for more in-depth analysis and more crazy things that have been going on behind the scenes with the rankings. But as of right now, here are the current rankings that we are going to predict the AP poll will be showing for week 7. I mean, numbers everywhere, right? The only one that does not have any numbers is Notre Dame, and that's because they didn't play this weekend. So everyone else around them is moving, right? You have crazy scenarios. A new number 1, although it's a number 1 we've seen before this year. Texas at number 1. Why is that? Because Alabama lost to unranked Vanderbilt. And that is a crazy thing because Vanderbilt has had tough games all year. If you remember a couple weeks ago, Mizzou had just beat Vanderbilt in overtime. A lot of people had kind of dismissed Mizzou. They had dropped a couple spots in the rankings, even though they won. And they said, Vanderbilt's not a tough team. How could that possibly happen? Well, it happened against the number 1 team in the country. So we have that situation. Tennessee lost to Arkansas. Mizzou lost to Texas A&M. Michigan lost, USC lost, Louisville lost. There isn't a lot of teams that didn't lose that were heavy favorites. And they're not losing to, tougher competitive teams. These are unranked teams. These are teams that the AP does not believe are in the top 25. So, so much to digest here. But a couple of crazy things. Gonna be honest with everyone. This is the second video I've made tonight. I made a video with Miami losing because they were losing and it looked like they were going to lose. So I came out with a video, decided, hey, I'll watch the end of this game. Let's see what happens. It's now 2:40 a.m. Eastern and here we are. Miami with a crazy comeback against Cal. We'll show here in a second, they were not there. That was going to be a pretty big drop for them. So right here you have Miami at number 6. Let's go to the what if simulation tool and let's say, well, what would have actually been their ranking had they not scored that last touchdown? And you'll see some controversial calls. There was a targeting situation. There was throwing behind the line of scrimmage that was called in the play. Let's say they don't score that last score. Let's go ahead and make it 32-38. If we run the simulation, we were projecting at the time that Miami was going to drop down to 16, which is even crazier if you take into account their week 5 game. So if we go to week 5 and we look at that Virginia Tech madness, Virginia Tech with a Hail Mary that got called incomplete, that was reviewed for forever. Let's say Virginia Tech actually completes that Hail Mary. Let's run that simulation again. If you take away that Virginia Tech win and the win against Cal Berkeley today, they're sitting at 36, according to our predictive algorithm. They're out of the AP top 25. Crazy. There's Vanderbilt right there after their win against Alabama. Vanderbilt also has some crazy scenarios. You can see in our newsletter where we actually would have predicted Vanderbilt to be in the scenario where they beat Mizzou a couple weeks ago. By the way, spoiler, it's in the top 10. So these games have so much rankings implications that are behind every single one of them, and they're coming down to the wire, which is great as a fan. So overall, right now, what we're seeing for the predictions for the next AP poll, it's looking wild. This is completely night and day from what we saw this morning. Do I think that Texas A&M is going to jump up 16 slots to a top 10 ranking? No. I don't think Mizzou was treated as a premier top 10 team. They were kind of just in there from the preseason AP poll. They had a couple early season games. undefeated up until this point in time. Now they drop down to that 20 slot. That seems appropriate. Texas A&M up to 9. I don't think so. So I would expect them to be somewhere in that 15 range. But everything else, I'm interested to see if Arkansas breaks into the top 25. I'm interested to see if Vanderbilt breaks into the top 25. Like Michigan and USC, I think the algorithm has them just outside of the AP top 25. I think it's a little bit more realistic that they'll be in the 20 to 25 range. So those are the main ones that I see, but we use this as a tool, right? We want real-time analytical predictive modeling that can help us understand as fast as humanly possible where these teams will be ranked. So it's going to make a couple of bad predictions. That's going to naturally happen. We're going to hope to fix those as the seasons, as the years go on. We'll make this more and more accurate. But as of right now, we're turning this in. We're being transparent. I'm not saying these are Peyton's rankings. I'm saying these are the rankings right now algorithm that we're trying to make as best and as high quality as possible that you, the fans, can enjoy and utilize as much as possible. With that being said, one of the other things that we can look at, excuse me, is the College Football Selection Committee rankings. We have an algorithm for this too. We've trained an algorithm. We can reverse engineer it, even though they're not releasing their rankings. We can kind of make those predictions and say, well, where would they be right now? So, according to the playoff committee, if we could ask them right now, hey, give us your rankings going into week 7, this is what we believe the algorithm would output for those rankings. Kind of similar to the AP, but you see some major differences. Ohio State as number 1. We still have Georgia and Alabama relatively in the same spots that the AP is having. Miami as a top 10 team. Tennessee dropping a couple of slots. Missouri still hanging in there. Why? Because they have, I believe, if we can find Texas A&M as a legitimate contender. So we're left with some really, really interesting insights into what the AP poll might be thinking. Michigan's still in the top 25. Pitt is a top 25 team. These are all fun, interesting components of what we can be analyzing as we get closer to that week 10 release of the playoff committee rankings. I hope we're as close as possible. That's going to be one of the more exciting, anticipating things to be showing as we get closer. But overall, what a crazy day, night, weekend, whatever you want to call it, of college football it's been. I wish every weekend could be this crazy. Once again, when you think that there's not that interesting slate of games, it's college football. It's a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds and a little bit older now with red shirts and whatever. But it's so much fun. It's so interesting. Rankings are so important. We want to know them right now. Go ahead and go create a login at rankingsrightnow.com. It's free. You'll have access to the entire website and play around with these what-if simulations. Send them over to me on social media. It's fun to chat about. Each game has enormous implications of what it might mean for the rest of not only for that team, but for the rest of the landscape of college football. So play around, have fun. We'll go ahead and release another newsletter when the AP poll comes out with their official Week 7 rankings, and we'll show you how close we are, and we'll continue to improve each week. Send in your feedback, send in your questions. I'm enjoying all of it, and so until next week, have a good weekend. Enjoy college football, every second of it, and have fun on rankingsrightnow.com.